Yo, we just people from the north side. Once the Timmy's hit the shore fine. Winter ready on the four ties. Heavy traffic during 4-5. Gotta hustle on your own time. Color people every port side. We just people from the north side.
Ladies and gentlemen, your host, your boy George Mackay, back again on Straight Talk Wrestling. And man, I could not be more excited to have this individual on the show. I've been chasing them for a while, finally locked it down. Please help me welcome the legend that is Kid Bandit to Straight Talk Wrestling.
Oh, legend. Hell yeah. I love that. I love that.
Listen, I think you're a legend. I look at your career thus far. I mean, it's only been 4 or 5 years you've been wrestling, but I look at the progression, I look at the matches, I look at the stories that you've told. And honestly, some of them are just absolutely incredible. Even the fact so much that WrestleMania 41 happened in Vegas, and there was a list of the top matches that happened that weekend outside of WrestleMania. And your match with Zack Sabre Jr. at Effie's Big Gay Brunch made the list. How cool is that?
Yes. What's up? Are you talking about the Yahoo news one?
Yes. Yes.
Oh wow, yes. I did see that. It's so funny because like I did like 7 matches that weekend, and I know that's not as much as like some others, and I've done like 11 like previous in Mania in LA, so like it's not the same amount of workload, but it is like I want to say like 3 months after I came back from like my injury and my surgeries and stuff. So it's definitely like kicking off a lot of ring rust. And I remember after it happened, I was just so exhausted, like just in general, that like people were saying great job, good work, and I just kept thinking like, did that just happen? Like did I like did I really wrestle Zack Sabre Jr.? Like, which congratulations, by the way, currently the new IWGP Heavyweight Champion. So rematch for the title. I'm just kidding, but I want to earn it one day. But the idea I had for the entire weekend was I was gonna lock in and stuff, but by that point I was so exhausted that a lot of what happened in that match was like me kind of like my body was just moving on its own. Like I wasn't really thinking or processing anything. It was just the training kicking in, which hey, I've been training a lot, so I like to think it actually like manifested itself during that match because I think my body knew how important that match was to me. So I had to push through the fatigue, the ring rust, everything really and stuff. And and to see it get validated like as much as it did, like as like a marquee performance for myself. Like I've had people say it's a star making performance. People are saying like, yeah, you held your own. It wasn't just like, a one-sided affair. It was very much something that, showcased not just how great of a technical wizard Zach was, but also like how he's able to like, adapt to a very unconventional style, which I had, and how my unconventional style is very much like viable in like high caliber settings such as that one. So it is very validating, that's my biggest like feeling from everything.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I mean, as much as I love that match, I actually watched it this morning and preparing for this interview again because I had to watch it again. But that's not my favorite match of yours. My favorite match of yours is you versus Malachi Black at Prestige. Incredible, incredible match. I look back at that one and the story that was told in that one. I believe truly, as much as I don't disagree with anyone saying that your match versus Sabre was, a star-making performance. I believe you versus Malachi Black showed only 2 years into your training, a year and a half into your training, exactly the caliber of matches you could have. That's
Thank
my
you.
takeaway.
Thank you. That one was fun. I flew in from Canada. We got there late. I got hit by a car 2 weeks before. I don't know how I got through that. It was, but the body knows when something's important. The heart knows, right? So, and what is heart but the source of your cardio? So, so it definitely made me lock in for sure. And I like to think that every wrestler has that on switch of like, all right, this is the big one, lock in, let's go, But I've been fortunate enough that in the infancy of my career, even to like this point, I have been afforded opportunities to, share the ring with like incredible calibers of talent. And, not very recently, I just wrestled Miyu Yamashita over in Kitsune in Los Angeles. I tagged with Tanaka, Masato fucking Tanaka. Like, I'm sorry, that just happened, and and this has kind of been like the traction in my career from the get go. It's like, hey, I'm noob and big thing, big thing, big thing, and like first ever DPW show. You're in first match. Oh, what? Wow! And look where they're at now. Oh, or Malachi Black versus Kid Bandit, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Kid Bandit. So it's always felt like, as much of an experienced wrestler as I was able to like really, like it's almost like an EXP multiplier in a video game where you're because the caliber of opponents I've been fortunate enough to face have like elevated me, as it were. Like I feel like my experience level doesn't really match like my tenure. So here I am now, like I just had my 4th year anniversary day since my debut this Saturday, and I did skip 18 months, so technically I'm like 3 and somewhat change years in. And to be able to say like, yeah, I did this, and this, and these are all milestones on top of like, like not to get political here, but like there's something incredibly different about me compared to like most other wrestlers that, has always like historically been kind of a detriment in the world, like in the industry. Like it hasn't always been open minded, so I felt like I was fighting two different battles and two different fronts, like navigating the wrestling world as a high profile name, but without like the tenure and the respect, because I'm so new. But also like navigating like the socio-political climate of like being a trans woman in professional wrestling, and kind of a notable one at that. So definitely a kind of a journey.
100%. Like when you look at you mentioned it hasn't always been the inclusive space that it is now, pro wrestling. It hasn't always been so welcoming to all different types of individuals. Knowing that and coming in when you did, were you concerned at all that maybe you wouldn't be as welcomed as you have been?
Mm, I definitely feel like my career trajectory would have been different if I didn't transition. Like I certainly lost a lot of like the mainstream appeal, like since like I came out, because I feel like as much of a novelty as it is being LGBT, it is called a minority for a reason. There's like less than 1% of us in the world, um, in America. I'm sorry, and then there's also like the longstanding levels of bigotry that's always permeated in our nation, which unfortunately, we're seeing that more and more like gradually increase every day. But I digress. The the unfortunate thing is, I feel like I would be more successful if I remained cis, but I would not be happier. And I never regret it. I guess like the only regret I would have is like I wish I came out then I debuted. That way, like there was only one version of me. Like I would prefer that, but at the same time, like I'm not afraid to showcase my journey. I feel like it helps people, like it gives them a little bit of perspective, like, oh, seeing how far you've come from this to that, like, it's pretty cool. And I'm like, yeah, no, you know what, I didn't have that when I first started transitioning. I didn't really have a lot of like, there wasn't like a pathway for me to follow. I had to like pretty much navigate these waters on my own. I did have like some role models, sure, but like within the context of my specific journey, like coming out like so publicly, on top of like having my stock like going up, and like and at the same time I'm still learning how to wrestle. I like I'm like the actual in-ring work to me mattered, like in the sense of like I didn't want to get known as like, oh, let's book the anime trans wrestler. I wanted to be known as, hey, Kid Bandit's a good wrestler who happens to be trans, let's book her, so that's always been like my mindset. And so I had to like really make sure that at least my in-ring skill was up to par. And like, yeah, it wasn't always clean, but like I worked really hard on it. And to go back to the original question, like how did I feel about like, the spaces, is there's this awful thing about wrestling where somebody could be heinous as hell. He could be racist, could be a scammer, could be all that. But if you like their in-ring work, then fans are more than happy to separate the art from the artist, more than happy to like feed into their escapism and stuff. And in the opposite spectrum, that I have found that despite people not really liking, the LGBTQ community, they like my wrestling. So it's like, okay, like, so maybe in the real world, I don't really have an opportunity to fight back against like a lot of the oppression, quote unquote, that like people like me go through. But I feel like in wrestling, at least I have a fighting chance to like prove like, hey, look, I belong here. Like, not just because of what I am. I'm not a DEI hire, as it were. I am a good wrestler who happens to be this, you know. So, and it's kind of held true till today. You know, like that the entire approach. Like, people still book me regardless of their opinions about my identity because they like my wrestling. So I always knew I could fall back on just the craft, but at the same time, I'm very outspoken.
And listen, I love that. That's the whole point about, like, even myself. I'm upfront, I'm honest. Sometimes it's a detriment. Sometimes I put my foot in my mouth. More times than not, I put my foot in my mouth. But the one thing I could say is that would change my perspective on everything and would change my, not so much opinionated nature, but would change my landscape or trajectory of how I approach situations now is becoming a father. Once I had both of my daughters, that put a lot into perspective that I don't want them to have to go through anything that I went through. I mean, I'm together now and everything like that. I'm a 41-year-old individual. I was going to age myself even more and say 42. Thank God I caught myself. But I was able to overcome quite a bit. I've always been a bigger guy, so bullying and stuff like that was a fact. But you know what? As you get older, you realize what matters the most is how you see yourself. And I say that when I became a father is when I started to see the true version of myself. So I say kudos to you for figuring out that true version at such a young age and being able to flourish in any capacity. As long as you're happy, you're happy. Am I not wrong when I say that?
I mean, my back kind of hurts, but I'm very happy.
Listen, I can't control the back. All I could say is, rest up, take it easy, and we'll go from there. But I do want to ask about this. Tokyo Joshi. I know you were over there. It was an amazing experience. Talk to me about it, because I love Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling. I think it's one of the best promotions out there. They are fantastic. Talk to me all about that experience.
So I actually haven't had the opportunity to work for Tokyo Joshi Pro. I did wrestle a couple of their talent over at the GCW TJPW DDT crossover show. I was able to share a locker room with them. Um, I work with Miyu, Rika Tatsumi, Maki Ito, so I'm familiar with their work. I've also when I used to run a wrestling company, I would work with TJPW and like try to get like their talent over. So nothing but good things to say about the company. And as a fan, of course, like they're like some of the most like vibrant characters in wrestling will come from like Japan, and like you see that evidently over TJPW. I did, however, spend some time in Japan working for Zero One.
Yes.
Um, and that was like it was incredible. It's like you have a character that's based off an anime character, and then you go to Japan and it's like an anime, and you're just like, whoa, this is cool. What am I doing here? Oh, that's right, I'm kicking someone's head in. What? That's like the coolest, dopest thing ever. And then I'm trying to like write a diary about like everything that's going on, and I'm just like, everything I'm writing right now feels like fan fiction, but it's not. Like, and it's awesome too because it wasn't just me in Japan at the time. Like, there was Calvin Tankman, it was Shane Mercer. I believe some of the other American talent were also there at the time because it was Golden Week in Japan, and it was kind of like a national like celebratory week. I think the closest thing I could think of is an American equivalent is like spring break, there was lots of wrestling. I think I did like 5 matches in like a 7-day period, so that's like 5 different days of wrestling, so body was a little beat up, but my heart was very fulfilled. And I really like that in Japan, the way that they approach wrestling, both as a talent and as fans, is that it's very serious to the point that it's almost it's not sensationalized in the way that Western wrestling is, where it's more of a spectacle. In Japan, it's more of like a showcase of talent and athleticism and martial arts, and very much fits me more, I feel like, because I feel like the trajectory of my career since my injury, I've been able to perform some of like my flashier moves because I'm taking care of myself. But at the same time, I've kind of recontextualized a lot of the old stuff that I do into something different that incorporates a lot of more of the shoot style stuff in my fighting background. And I feel like that resonated a lot better with like the Japanese audience, as opposed to like even though like I've had like good matches here in America since I've been back. I feel like the Japanese audience really truly saw exactly what I'm doing. They saw right through like the whimsical gimmick that I have, where I'm just like, hey, I'm just here to have fun. Like they see that, but they also see like the lethality of precision that I have with my technique, and they're just like, whoa, that's cool. You train, and I'm like. I do actually. Thank you for noticing. You know, in America, everybody just like comments on the hair. So like, and I don't mind either or. Like, don't like mind you. I am. Hey, you want to like admire me because I'm pretty? Yeah, but in Japan, they also like they really focused on my craft, which made me want to work on it even more because of like if that's like the ultimate metric of like measurement in Japan about how they view you as a professional wrestler, then I might as well like really hone in on it. They don't care about how I look or what I am or anything about me. The stuff I like, you know, they cared about how I am in the ring, and they like what they saw. So very much happy about that, you know. And I can't wait to be back. Wink, wink. Not gonna spoil anything, but wink. So yes.
I love that. I love that. You know, it was interesting when you came out during Effie's Big Gay Brunch. The announcers mentioned specifically that you were channeling Cyberpunk.
Yes.
And I've noticed that in a few of your matches, a few of your entries, you're always channeling these different individuals. Do you approach every match as, I got to tap into this side? Because, I mean, for Effie's Big Gay Brunch, the Cyberpunk character is a little darker, a little more aggressive, a little ultra violent, if you will. But I've also seen you channel the happier characters. When it depends on the opponent, do you choose to channel different inspirations?
Absolutely. Yes. 100% spot on. uh, Next question. No, but okay. So I guess like I'll elaborate a little bit. So the reasoning for Johnny Silverhand against Zack Sabre Jr. and like it's very simple. Look, I grew up punk rock. Like I grew up listening to like a lot of like punk music, Black Flag, Ramones, and stuff. I have like a cool leather jacket with spikes that I never wear because it's always too hot nowadays. You know, so very much have always had a rebellious nature about myself. Um, when you look at someone like Zack Sabre Jr., this is someone that has refined their technique very, very cleanly, to the point where you get like, okay, I can speak from experience. A lot of the crazy stuff that happens to you when he twists you, like, I think he just comes up with it like right there and then. Because I'm like, what the frick is going on? I didn't even know I could bend this way, you know. So that was like, and I knew that coming in because like there was such a huge like before the match even got announced, I already was studying Zack Sabre Jr. If you're a professional wrestler and you want to improve on your crafts, particularly your technical aspects, you gotta study Zack Sabre Jr. And I mentioned this to my friends a lot, like if you're a film student, you study Tarantino or Scorsese, right? If you're a pro wrestler, you study Zack Sabre Jr. You know, so very much familiar with what I was walking into. Not necessarily like, oh, I know exactly what I'm dealing with. More so like, okay, I've seen countless matches of yours, and I'm thinking he probably hasn't seen a lot of mine. And if he has, it's so awkward and weird and unorthodox that I really wanted to rely on catching him off guard. You know, and usually I get underestimated. You know, as far as like, you know, big people see like the goofy side, the goofy dance, like, you know, a lot of like the anime like references and the pop culture references and stuff. And they don't actually see the lethal like striker that I've turned myself into. So Zach, however, is smarter than that. He does not take like he doesn't look down on anybody. He takes you seriously from the get go, and I knew that coming in. So I wanted to really channel the most unpredictable punk rock character I know in that match to catch him off guard, which I did. If you watch the match, the only times I actually like was able to come out on top is by shocking him out of nowhere and stuff. So, and Johnny Silverhand is a character. I feel like that motherfucker lost. Like, that motherfucker died, then lost, and then he came back angrier than ever. And I'm like, yeah, like, I thought that, like, hey, look, my chances of winning this match are slim, very slim, but I'm gonna give it my all. And if I don't win this time, you bet your ass I'm coming back angrier than ever, you know? And so that was the inspiration for it. There's layers to this shit.
100. No, listen, when you say there's layers, there's those little Easter eggs, those little nuances that really make people appreciate how much thought goes into the craft, as you've called it multiple times. Speaking of the craft, one of the best to have ever laced a pair of boots in Kenny Omega has adorned you. has literally said there's something special about you. You have that unique quality that nobody can explain, but it just makes you want to cheer for them. When somebody is decorated and as Hall of Fame bound as Kenny Omega is, how does that resonate with you? Only being 3.5, because you said 18 months you skipped, 3.5 years in, and you have one of the best who have ever done it tell you you're special.
All right, fun story. I was so high when I found that article, so I don't think I reacted accordingly. Like I saw it, I was like, "Nice," and I just like said "nice" to everybody. Like what really meant to me was like, "Holy crap, that's Kenny Omega saying." Like, so now I could react accordingly. Like, "Holy crap, that's Kenny Omega saying I'm special." Because like I wish I could agree because like but I guess I do agree. Like nobody could really explain it, and I can't explain it. Like I don't know why people like me as much as they do, and I'm grateful. Like and it's almost come to the point where I've tried to be calculating about it. I tried to approach it in more business aspect, and it just never really resonated well. Like I'm like, I think people like me because I try to be genuine in the sense of like, yeah, no, I'm flawed, I'm stupid, I'm all these like things that aren't like what I'd call attractive in like the mainstream sense, but at the same time, I'm still doing my best, and I feel like something that I learned doing this is that a lot of people live vicariously through us, and I call this the Spider-Man effect, in the sense that when Spider-Man was conceived by Stan Lee, Marvel at the time was like against it because they're like, you want to make a nerdy boy have the powers of a spider, this isn't gonna sell well, like but it had the opposite effect. Everybody loved Spider-Man. Why? Because like he was flawed. He was like he was the underdog. He was awkward, and and like spider. Like it's a spider. Like nobody really likes spiders. So, but people saw that as relatable because we're not perfect. Nobody is, and I think it's easier to gravitate to you know like role models who you could relate to their flaws of. And I've very much been open about like my shortcomings because I've always felt like I don't deserve the spotlight that's on me. Like I always felt like, yeah, like it's really cool that I'm getting all these opportunities. I don't feel like I deserve it, especially like being surrounded like by some incredible talent like here where I'm like staying in Southern California, seeing them not getting as much opportunities as I am, despite me believing they're more than deserving, even more deserving of than I am. It always felt like I had like massive case of imposter syndrome. And, to hear someone as decorated, like I said, Hall of Fame bound, like Kenny Omega, like just give high praise, like one, like I remember just thinking, this is a fucking dream, like this is not real. This is there's a full minute out there of Kenny Omega just putting me over, and I'm just like, cool. That's really cool. I don't even know what to say. Like, like and so much of what he said, like, I kind of understood. Like I'm like, yeah, I felt that. Like I really don't get why people like me, but they do. And it's almost like in wrestling, there's this thing that there's like a kind of like an adage. You try everything and anything, and you throw it in the wall, and whatever sticks, that's the approach, right? Well, I don't even know what I'm throwing at the wall. I'm just me. Like, and there's like I change my theme song all the time because I want to dance to something new. I change gimmicks on a whim because like I feel like, oh, today I want to be goth. Today I want to be an anime character. Like, I'm doing whatever I want, and I'm using it as a platform for creative self-expression, and trying to be as different about my approach with professional wrestling as possible because I think it helps me stand out. But also, this is who I am, like as a person, and I feel like as wrestlers, if your energy feels genuine, if you truly have like emotion attached to your performance, to what you're doing, the fans could feel it. When the fans can empathize with something like that, then you're not really just doing a match, you're making moments. And that's what the business is all about. It's like getting invoking emotions out of the audience that like make them feel some type of way, whether it's like good or bad, depending on the situation that you need them to like, gravitate towards to. So in my case, it was very much like I feel like with how unconventional my path has been in so many fucking ways, from the rookie part to the trans part to like the anime gimmick part to like just blowing up before I'm even like it's like a like I remember like talking about this. It's like an indie band that blows up with a hit single one day, and now they're like touring the world, and they're like, well, shit, we can't just rely on one single. Got to keep putting out bangers, and hence the Malachi match, hence the Zack Sabre Jr. match, hence the Japan trip, hence the upcoming Europe trip. Like, I can't just be known as like this girl that got put over by Kenny Omega online. I gotta prove that he was right. I gotta prove to the world that, like, hey, but most importantly, and mind you, this is something I've learned recently. I gotta prove it to myself that what he said about me is true. Because, like, I look up to Kenny Omega. I think every wrestler does, right? So, like, you know, I want to. I like those words for me are like validating, sure, but it's also like, okay, now I got to be strong enough to be able to carry that weight wherever I go because that is such a heavy endorsement, and I want to be like worthy of it. So yeah,
I no, listen, honestly, I love the answers. I love what you're saying. Everything you're saying is resonating and it's so truthful. And I do have to ask, I do have to say this. Wrestling, like you said early on in this conversation, is the mindset is the mindset. But I feel like you're not happy with the mindset. I feel like you're like, you know what? If that's the mindset, I'm gonna change the mindset. And I think that's what you're doing over and over again with just this incredible smile and this infectious personality. And also, like you said, kick-ass craft. It's incredible the stuff that you could do. And you know what? You're right. I think a lot of people may underestimate your striking ability, but I don't think anymore. I think a lot of people, especially after the Zack Sabre Jr. match, they're realizing Kid Bandit does not play.
yeah. When I'm locked in, like them kicks gonna hit your head. Like I'm sorry, like, and like I was worried too because like he's so tall. He's so tall. How am I gonna kick him? But then the match happened. I'm like, oh, I got this. I got it. Like as soon as I got that, I did that first roundhouse in the face. I'm like, oh, I got this. Watch this. Check this shit out. Like, so it's really it's because I've been taking taekwondo at my local strip mall.
Hey,
So I'm like out here kicking with the kids, but they're seeing me try really hard, and it's inspiring them to try harder. And I'm just like, I can't tell you guys why I'm trying really hard. I'm sorry. I wish I could. I don't want you guys finding out that like this is what I do in the weekends. Because don't try this at home. Wait till you're at least like like ring shape. Then I'll let you know what's up.
there you go. That's a great endorsement. You know what? With the mindset in pro wrestling changing now, I do have to ask this: do you think, or what's your opinion on possibly one day can we have a trans world champion? Can we have an LGBTQ world champion?
We had Nyla. You know.
I mean, like, let's talk WWE landscape.
Oh, okay. So in the WWE scape, I mean, okay, it wasn't that long ago where we didn't have a black world heavyweight champion. Like, I mean, there's Rocky Johnson, sure, but like, I guess like in the modern era, like when Kofi won it, like it felt like validating, especially given like all the stuff that's happening outside of wrestling. It very much felt like the ultimate feel good story of validating like not just like his journey, but I feel like a lot, like I pointed out earlier, people live vicariously through us. So that definitely resonated deeply with like big communities. Like, and like for me, it resonated like, hey, like this is a dude that got underappreciated his whole time out there, and we've seen it time and time again in professional wrestling where you know, uh, um, workhorses that give their entire lives into this business that never really get the big one. And then you see someone like Kofi, who many has dismissed as like, oh, that guy's just mid card. That guy's just mid card. That guy main evented WrestleMania against Bryan Danielson. What's up? He beat Bryan Danielson at the main event of WrestleMania. Like, so like that's a story. And that's what we do, right? As professional wrestlers, we tell stories that resonate like emotionally with people. So I believe that the current struggles of the trans community will definitely be like, can translate very well as a feel good moment, like in professional wrestling. I think that, when the demand calls for it, where something like, well, or a story like that needs to be told, it will be told because that's what professional wrestling is. Like, like it is very much a reflection of the current world that we live in the sense that like we're seeing changes to the product now that reflect the current like climate versus like how it was 10 years ago or even 20 years ago. Very much different. The 90s, oh boy, like that shit would not fly in this current, like, and you know what I mean? So it's reflective of the times that we live in, and I feel like, to answer your question, like it's very possible. Like, will it happen in my generation? Will it be me? I don't know. I can't answer that. I want it to be me, but if my role to play in the grand scheme of things is just to be like a stepping stone for someone like else to get to that point, more than happy to play my part. Because like something I've learned as a queer person is that as soon, like especially as a public figure, like you're not just you. You're representing the community, whether you want to or not. You've been listed in the cause, and unfortunately, it's up to you to like represent as best as you can. And there's almost like this added pressure of like, hey, don't fuck up, don't fuck this up for the rest of us, So, um, whether or not it's gonna happen in my lifetime, I don't know. Like, I want to be hopeful about it, of course. Like, hope is the strongest emotion. It overcomes fear. It overcomes hate. Hope is what is the driving force for the world, right? And I can only hope that it does happen. I can only hope that we will come into a world where it becomes so inclusive and accepting that we don't even think too much about like whether or not some trans person is going to be a world champion. We're just looking for who's it going to be, or it's like it's a question of only a matter of time. But like there will always be discourse about it. Like there's always going to be naysayers, bigotry, like involved in like certain spaces, and that will never go away. Because that's just the nature of the world. Like racism's still around. Like what the hell? I thought we got rid of that when we abolished slavery. What the and the civil rights movement? Why is it still around? But it is, so in very much same scans, like homophobia, transphobia, that will always be around. Like long before I was born, way longer after I'm dead. But it's up to us to like try to like pave the way to make it more inclusive. And I like to think I'm playing a small role in that, so we'll see.
Absolutely. I think you're under us. I think you're undercounting your role. I think your role is a little bit above small, but I'll let you. I don't want to put any added pressure, so we'll just say small for sure. Now, I know you mentioned earlier in the conversation European tour is upcoming. Where are we going? Where's the spotlight going to hit? And Kid Bandit's going to arrive.
So like I am the great procrastinator. I have my schedule. I have it in my phone. I wrote it down. But I have spent the last 2 days just on a bender, partying and going to clubs. So I don't have it off the top of my head, but I will do my best. All right. So first show, July 13th, I will be in Paris, France for Drag Attack. Pardon my French, it's terrible, but Je m'appelle Kid Bandit. There we go. Hey, okay, cool. Very excited for that one. I've fortunately shared locker rooms with some of the talent there in the past, so excited to run into some familiar faces. I do plan on going to the nightclubs, so like gonna channel a lot of that into the ring, mind you, because I like to think that every show featuring Kid Bandit should feel at least a little punk. A little punk, a little like that scene in Blade where there were like vampires and like there was like vampire raid where there was like blood sprinklers and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
I want that kind of vibe every time I'm in the ring. That's like that. So I try to channel that. And then after that, it hasn't been announced yet, so I'm not gonna say it, but I will be in Leeds for two different companies. One of them is going to be True Grit. Fun fact: my last UK show, the day I got injured, was actually in True Grit. I didn't get hurt in the show. I got hurt like in the morning. I was doing something else. So, but it did take me out for a year and some months. So very excited. This feels like retribution for me, being able to come back to a place where I wrestled Stephanie Sterling. Everybody thought it was like great freaking match. I think it won like the QWI Match of the Year award. I'm like, what? I was like half dead for that match. Let's go. So I can only imagine what it's gonna be like if I'm coming in there 100%, well trained, after wrestling Zack Sabre Jr. So like, and that guy's a British hero. So like, I like to think that there's a little bit more of like an attention to me because of that. And then I'll be over in Dundee, Scotland for Dundee Pro Wrestling and Fair City Wrestling over in July 25 to July 26th. That's going to be my last dates, I believe, for that side, and then I will be going to WXW in Germany on August 16th. I do have some free weekends available, so I am trying to like lock in like I think two more shows But I'm not gonna cry about it because like those are 2 weekends where I just partay. So so like I guess like the ultimate approach to like the European tour is just to have as much fun as possible and bring that fun that I'm having to like the audience. So I'm trying like in previous years I've always approached these like world tours as kind of like this like gotta lock in, gotta lock in, gotta lock in. Mind you, I will like in the ring, but at the same time I'm also gonna have as much fun as possible because fun is part of fundamentals. Ayo.
I love it. I love it. Well, I before I ask my last question, I want to let you know this conversation has been absolutely phenomenal, and you are now officially a member of the Straight Talk family. As long as the podcast is running, anytime you want to come back, you are more than welcome. I would be honored to have you on the show. Now, before I ask my last question, do you want to shout out your socials anywhere? I mean, everyone already keeps up on the journey that is Kid Bandit. We follow each other on a few platforms, so it's awesome to see your journey and your progression. But in case people don't know, where can they follow the journey that is Kid Bandit?
So I am at Kid Bandit Pro on every social media except TikTok because I deleted TikTok because I just could not stand it anymore. It was too many. I didn't get it. I'm sorry. I'm like a zillennial. Like I'm at the border of like Gen Z and a lot of their stuff. It just does not make sense to me. I'm sorry. So I deleted it out of spite because I just couldn't deal with it. But I made a new one and it's just under Kid Bandit. So that's the only thing that's different. Everything else is Kid Bandit Pro.
Perfect. Okay, guys, there you go. They are back on TikTok, whether they want to be there or not. They're back there. Okay, so there
I
it
have to be. It's like the premier social media platform. Like I hate this place. I don't get it. Whatever.
Absolutely. I listen. I agree with you. I'm 41 years old. I had to go on TikTok like 3 years ago when the podcast started to take off, and I'm still shaking my head. I post my videos. I leave. That's it. I like
Me
a few
too.
things to stay active. Oh, okay, yeah, I like that. That's cool. Whatever. My TikTok has been blowing up. Okay, I'm going to tell you a secret, kid. I feel like we're on a good confident friendship curve here. I'm a big fan of the Mormon Housewives. Big
Okay.
fan of the Mormon Housewives. And after the reunion today, they're all over my TikTok, and I could not be more happier. I love those ladies. They're filled with drama, and I'm not ashamed about. I'm not embarrassed at all. I love them.
No, you know what? Like my TikTok right now is filled with like, cause I keep like posting like I try to make my TikTok more my wrestling stuff. Just like, hey, check out my cool wrestling moves. Like, I try to avoid the thirst traps there as much as I can because like that's for Twitter. That's to like build the algorithm. Like, okay, I will say this in video now. Look, I am a whore outside of wrestling. Okay, like I'm a good little whore. Safe, responsible one. But in wrestling, I try not to be like that because it is like the craft is so like important to me. Like so I try to distinguish myself from that. But I also recognize that hey, some of y'all fuckers are gooners. So so I gotta give a little bit so I could receive a little bit. And so most of the time I post like something slooty. It's just literally me trying to like, okay, like I hope we all see this. And then you see the cool little wrestling move that I have posted a little bit before this.
Mhm.
Yeah? Yeah, so that's the strategy. I am sorry. I'm not genuine at all. It's all kayfabe, everyone. but but on TikTok, like I try to be, as wrestling oriented as possible. And because I always like hashtag anime, like everything, like I just get like anime clips and I'm like, oh, that's a cool fight. Oh, that's a cool fight. Oh, it's like 2 hours already. I've been on TikTok. Damn it. This is why I don't use this shit.
I've lost many hours on TikTok as well. Okay, my final question, and this is a question that I think everyone in your family is to be curious to know. Maybe they already know the answer, but I don't know the answer. I myself am a big fan of anime. Certain animes I hold close to my heart. What is Kid Bandits? Like, I mean, if you could only watch one anime for the rest of your life, what is that anime?
Can you see it?
Okay, there it is. There it is.
Yes. Just because I really like the character. He's cool. He's edgy. He has like the cool pose, the cool coat. Like I'm very much oh my gosh, I just realized I kind of like dress like him now. Okay. Anyway, like I'm very much a fan of the edgy early 2000s, late 90s aesthetic. I fucking love Korn, like the band, the Gorillas, like their whole like edgy aesthetic. And Trigun, I feel like embodies that, but it's also like really lighthearted. So it's like the perfect kind of embodiment of what I am as a person. I'm a goofy goofball, but in my heart, I'm Shadow the Hedgehog. So
I love it. And I think that is the best way to end this conversation. Kid Bandit, again, amazing. I'm honored to be able to have you as a guest on the show and be able to have this conversation with you. And everyone out there, don't forget to click the link below, follow all the socials. And that's it for this one. Peace, love, and wrestling. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Yo, we just people from the north side. Once the Timmy's hit the shore fine. Winter ready on the four ties. Heavy traffic during 4-5. Gotta hustle on your own time. Color people every port side. We just people from the north side.